Good evening. I'll call the October meeting of the Colonial School Board of Education to order. Our flag salute this evening will be led by Vice President Lucy Kennedy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Kennedy. First order of business we have is any additions or corrections to the board agenda.
I have none.
The board have none? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion to approve the agenda is written.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Been moved by Ms. Kennedy, seconded by Mr. McGee. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The agenda is approved. Next order of business we have is the consent agenda. Consent agenda consists of board meeting minutes, business items, education items for EPR, and good choice cause, and choice termination, and personnel. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
We have a motion, Mr. President, to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
The motion's been made by Mr. McGee to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Handy has second. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Consent agenda is approved. Next order of business we have is education, waivers of the provision of 14 Delaware Administration Code 1704 and 1705A class size waiver. Dr. Menzer.
This is the time of the year where the district needs to post public meeting notice of our November board meeting. And one of the topics that will be discussed or put forward to the board is to waive the class size count for K-3 classrooms. I can tell you as of October 1, the class size, the report I saw, we would have no more than 5 classes that exceed the waiver. I think it might even be 3. There might have been some changes at the last minute that made it down to 3 that are exceeding the count by generally 1 student. So we are going to be seeking your approval to post per regulation this notice 3 times in the News Journal between now and the next meeting.
I hear a motion to give the administration permission to post the class size waiver, public meeting information 3 times from the News Journal for public comment.
So moved.
Been moved by Ms. Kennedy. Do I hear a second? Second by Mr. McGee. To allow the administration to post 3 times for class size waiver. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Superintendents report. Dr. Menzer.
So I have a couple of items to share today. The first one is we're seeking the board's approval of an addendum to the student attendance policy for this school year during the COVID pandemic. In your board packet and in the board docs is the existing policy 201. We are seeking the approval of an addendum that modifies the attendance policy to reflect the virtual learning setting. This policy was drafted in conjunction with the legal counsel, with all the districts at the table. So many of the other districts have already done and approved or are about to approve this addendum to their attendance policy. At this time, I'll take any comments or questions from the board. I have it here in front of me. It also not in the policy statement, but you'll also see in your packet the attendance support team that we have created that the district is using to support student engagement and attendance during the virtual setting, as well as you'll see what the attendance policy, the procedure looks like of how it gets taken in the classrooms and in the virtual space classrooms. So I guess I would seek the board, and because of the exigent circumstances of the COVID pandemic, we are able to approve this without a first read. So I'm seeking the board's immediate approval of this policy.
Do I hear a motion?
Make a motion, Mr. President, that we approve the attendance policy as presented.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Mr. McGee, seconded by Mr. Pichu, to approve the district student attendance policy for COVID-19. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried.
Now, I just would like to share a brief update to the board, where we are with our return to school. Kind of under the mantra of "we got this" is what we've been talking about to our staff and our students and our families. Just a couple of quick items for your information. Most of these you've already seen or heard as you get the weekly updates the staff receive. You get the weekly communication to families and the updates from me. I'll just recap for you kind of in a sequence just to give you an understanding of it in its totality. First off, a while back, I believe it was in the fall, maybe even late spring, the board requested that William Penn consider bringing a student on board, the school board, to be a member of the board, not a voting member, but join us in these sessions. As requested, William Penn has established a process and is working through student responses and applications. Next month, we anticipate presenting the board with their recommendations.
Okay.
Also, the Colonial School District strategic planning process. You heard that in June. You heard a little bit about that in August. We did have planned a presentation tonight, a little bit more formal, but given the return to school, face-to-face, and the planning that's going into that, and some of the constraints that might be putting on our schools and our staff and our families, I'm just here to give you an update that they recognize that impact and they've kind of pushed their timeline back a little bit. And I suspect they'll be presenting briefly in November as to where they are with the process. I know facilitators have been trained, and I believe before the November board meeting, there will have been several, at least one, I know of potential community gathering around the model. So we'll have a little bit of a report of how it is going and starting up, hopefully at the November board meeting. Then just a recap on reopening school, like where we are with the return to face-to-face and how things are going in the virtual land. We recently reconvened our school and program-based work groups and operations teams to restart the safe return to school that we put on pause in August when we knew we were pivoting. We've recently released safety protocols to all staff. These protocols, you saw them in one of the emails that you received a week or so ago. These were developed by our Colonial COVID team based on the Delaware Department of Ed's reopening guidance document, as well as support from the Delaware Public Health, the Delaware Department of Public Health, CDC guidance, as well as feedback from our legal counsel. We're planning on releasing a parent-friendly version of those in the next couple of days as students are preparing to come back. If you saw it, it was a pretty intimidating document of procedures and guidelines for staff, from custodial all the way through to teachers. We've made it a little bit more parent-friendly, so it's easier to understand the kind of environment their children will be entering into in several weeks. We did reconfirm with our pre-K through 8 families their preference for virtual or face-to-face. The 60-40 split continued to hold. 60% of our families continue to want to remain in a virtual environment. 40% would like to see face-to-face move forward. Our COVID teams, our behavioral health division, our schools directors, our facilities supervisors and principals have done their final building walkthroughs to assess the preparedness of the schools for bringing in students. And I'm happy to say we've come through those with flying colors. It was an impressive amount of coordination and work, and I think that our facilities and our infrastructure is well prepared to bring on 40% of our students. And also based on their work and the analysis and the numbers and the curriculum and the programming, we released last week the timeline for our phased-in approach to bringing students back. We've had the four phases that were released in the email. You saw it in the email to staff, you saw it go out in the Colonial clippings. In the interest of time, I'm not going to read through every single one of them, but know that our goal is to hit those target dates for all those populations to the best of our ability with whatever's going on in the county at the time. We have, starting next week, our staff and our special programs at Southern Integration A at Southern, George Reed and William Penn, as well as our Castle students at Southern and our intensive learning students in Southern. Those staff start on Monday, and the students will be coming in on the 22nd, starting on Thursday, and they'll get 2 days in that week. It's important to note that William Penn will continue to remain in the virtual space for the first semester, but we are looking in phase 3 and bringing in identified classes for hands-on instruction, be they lab classes or hands-on CTE classes, performance classes, classes that require students to actually be physically present. Culinary, probably construction, ag, maybe chemistry lab, physics lab classes, but they're working now through that at the high school team level. I think it's important to keep in mind that these plans are based on the information and the data we have now and the recommendations we have now, that we have to continue to monitor the spread of COVID-19 in our community. We have to assess the availability of staff and our building preparedness based on the climate that we're in. And as that stuff changes, we will continue to make the best decision for the safety and well-being of our students and staff. Some other quick updates. The Colonial Curriculum and Instruction Division launched its first ever parent university to provide technical support and training to parents during the remote period. These are weekly live sessions that give parents insight on remote learning tools. For example, tomorrow night, parents can dial into a live Zoom session and learn about Securely Parent, which is a kind of an app-based program for parents to monitor and track their children online use. Those have been ongoing, and they're already scheduling out through to the end of the month. I also encourage our district parents and anybody that you talk to check out our website. It is a veritable one-stop shop, focal point for communication, resources, updates. We have a lot of information on that website that it's very helpful to kind of peruse through to see where we are and what things we can do to support teachers, students, and families. We do have a mobile app as well, so you can download that on your phone and get the same information on your phone with push notifications as they come through. Our Human Resources Division continues to work through the logistics of supporting staff through the virtual academy, as well as those who are going to be coming face-to-face. There's a lot of things that go into bringing teachers back to work, let alone back to work in 2 different settings, and given the parameters that several folks are under with respect to medical conditions, family situations, daycare. Our HR team is working tirelessly to make sure all of our staff are fully supported, from custodian all the way through to administration and teachers. Again, our COVID teams continue to coordinate, and our COVID team and our facilities team have partnered with the state and Dspa and the county to provide testing sites for our students and our families as we start to return. Last count on Friday, I heard we had 1,200 registrants signed up for our testing site at William Penn. I don't have the count on Saturdays at William Penn, but I would assume it's equally as high. And then our Student Services Division, schools directors, the operations departments, we just keep working on the logistics, scheduling, calendars, student support services from lunch to transportation to the enrollment process. How are we going to do the September 30th count in November in a virtual space and in a face-to-face setting? So we are working through a lot of the logistics that most people don't know really go on in schools. And lastly, when we did put out our email to families this last go around about whether they wanted to remain face-to-face or virtual, we did put a virtual learning experience survey in there. And of the respondents, it's amazing, 60% of the respondents agree or strongly agree that their child's needs are being met in the virtual world. That 60-40 split, the 40% would be the opposite of that.
Right.
And so, one can surmise, okay, those 40% or potentially the 40% that really want to be back face to face. So that 60-40 split is showing out in many of our interactions with the community. That's my nutshell report. If I entertain questions or comments from the board at this time.
Any questions from members of the board?
I have a comment.
Go ahead.
Yeah. 2 weeks ago, I asked Dr. Menzer if I could walk through one of the schools just to get an idea of kind of what our COVID protocol was. Gave me some different options of what schools we could go through. And I chose Newcastle Elementary with it being our oldest school building, 2 stories tall. I thought if anyone was going to possibly fail or not be up to the task, it might be that one. And I will tell you, as I joined in through the walkthrough, you know, as they're giving the tour and going through everything, they had an answer to every question that I saw. Protocols are there for the best of that we can possibly do here. And it really was quite surprising. And it was reassuring for seeing the kids. And I think if Newcastle Elementary is ready to start and you're seeing that open line of communication between admin and staff, it was definitely very reassuring to tell the parents for who are sending their kids back.
Thanks. Any other questions or comments? I saw a couple emails from people that I was copied on for their positive reinforcement as well too.
Yeah, there have been a few emails from staff and community members who felt comfortable, parents who feel very confident, comfortable, and appreciative of our efforts. So we feel like we're in a better place than we were in August, and we're ready. And we got this. That's best I can tell you.
Good. All right. No further questions. We'll go to our next order of business, which is business. Citizens Finance Oversight Committee. Dr. Menzer?
Yep, I'll be representing Ms. Falcon during this presentation today for 2 things. First, we've moved the budget variance report to the consent agenda, as you saw. It's something now that'll sit there for approval every month, and the board can see fit to, if there's something on it, you can always pull from the consent agenda to have comment on it. This is a little bit more aligned with what the other districts do with this report. Ms. Falcon will be probably providing a quarterly report around that directly, but the plan is moving forward to kind of have the business office and Ms. Falcon have a little bit more time to talk about budgetary issues that we may be facing as we move forward with this COVID crisis. So we see it as a trade-off, that budget variance report. I mean, you guys have seen the same. You've seen it for how many years running, and it's
Not changed.
It's not changed. We're in good shape. I know Chris has been on that committee, and I think that we're in good shape moving forward with a quarterly report of that magnitude as opposed to a monthly, and affording Ms. Falcon much more time to talk about pressing budgetary issues. The second item of business is also a little bit of Chris's former space. We have 2 recommendations to fill 2 vacancies in the CFO seat, and they're bringing these folks forward, and it needs board approval. 2 people did step down recently, and they were fortunate enough to have 2 qualified candidates. Well, I'm sorry, I know one is overly qualified. She was on it before, I believe, at one point. I can see her name. So we're fortunate that they're bringing forward 2 recommendations for 2 vacancies. At the board's pleasure, I'd take those nominations.
We will move forward with nominations. Who are the names?
Nominations are, it's a Miss Kearns and a Miss Shara.
Do I hear a motion from a member of the board
A motion.
to nominate both individuals?
Nominate both individuals for the Oversight Committee.
All right. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved by Mr. Pichu and seconded by Mr. McGee to nominate the 2 individuals as named by Dr. Menzer to be members of the Citizens Financial Oversight Committee. Questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Next order of business we have is the Jewel class action lawsuit. Dr. Menzer?
Yes, as we are aware, last month at the end of the board meeting, board member Handy presented a Jewel, our opportunity to join in a class action lawsuit with the other districts in the state against Jewel, the manufacturer of the vaping tool. I don't even know if they call it vape smoking things, right?
Yeah.
I don't even know what they call it. It's so far removed from that. There is a lawsuit waiver or a lawsuit sign-up form that we would need to sign if the board were interested. And in order for me to put that forward to the legal counsel for the class action lawsuit, the board needs to vote and approve joining. And then I would just move forward with Ted's signature and my signature as a witness. And you did have in your packet the overview of the lawsuit. And Ron did provide us an update last time, so.
And with this being a legal issue, as was briefly discussed in executive session.
Okay.
So do I hear a motion?
So move.
Your second?
That's it.
It's been moved by Mr. Handy, seconded by Mr. P2 to approve the superintendent manager to commit CSD to the dual class action lawsuit as discussed in executive session. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion is carried. Next order of business we have
But
is.
there is a Dspa update. I didn't know it was above the dual lawsuit. It's on there.
Did I skip over that?
Did you skip
No
over
way did I
Dspa?
skip over that.
No, you didn't skip over it.
I
You
did
didn't
skip over
you-
it.
Dr.
skip over-
Menzer did.
Ah!
No, that would have been me.
Thank you, Vice President.
Is there any DSBA updates? That's right.
Myself and Chris PQ attended the legislative committee meeting October 7th, and the legislature's not in session, and we went over the agenda for the upcoming session in January, and that's pretty much what.
Okay. Anything else for anyone? Thank you very much. My apologies for skipping over that.
You're
Not really. But anyway. Next order of business we have is items removed from the consent agenda. We have none. After that, it was items added to or deleted from the agenda. We had none. Public comment.
I have none.
We have none. And the last order of business we have is board vacancy. Number one is I hold in my hands a letter of resignation from Mr. Ronnie Williams to resign from his position on the board. Do I hear a motion to accept the resignation?
Make a motion to accept the resignation of Ronnie Williams.
Do I hear a second? Been moved by Ms. Kennedy, second by Mr. McGee to accept the resignation letter of Mr. Williams. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. With that being said, we have a vacancy on the board.
So,
Dr. Menzer?
So as you are aware, we began an application process for nominees for this vacancy within 5 days of receipt of the letter of resignation. We posted it twice in the newspaper in consecutive weeks. We received 2 affirmative responses by October 5th that there was interest in those seats. 2 individuals completed nomination forms and returned them to me, returned them to us after the 5th. And they were advised that on this Friday, past Friday, the 9th, that they would be receiving the Zoom link for this board meeting, as well as first round of written response questions for interviews. The questions that each of you selected a verbal question, but from the master list of board questions that we have, there were 6 questions selected, and the board candidates were asked to submit a written response by 4 o'clock on Monday, yesterday. As of 4 o'clock on Monday, I received only one of the respondents' responses, and I shared those with you last evening with the update that one of the nominees did not submit. So now we're in a situation where we do have, I believe, one of the nominee who submitted in writing, Mr. Rick Schiller, is in attendance right now in the meeting. It's the board's prerogative with respect to how they would like to move forward at this point.
Is the second candidate online?
No, the second candidate is not on the line.
Board's prerogative on how we want to move forward. If we could either proceed with the interviews, or we could simply have a motion to accept Mr. Schiller's application and put him in the vacancy. It's the board's prerogative. Do I hear any thoughts, or do I hear a motion from any member of the board?
I'd like to make a motion to accept Rick Schiller's application, as my feeling is that the other candidate abandoned the attempts.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. McGee, seconded by Mr. Handy to accept the application and appoint Mr. Rick Schiller to the vacant position on the Board of Education for District G? C. District C.
District C.
And that will be only until the next board election in May, at which point it will become an open seat.
Correct. Well, then, if Mr. Schiller is interested
Yeah.
in running for that position, he most certainly will need to submit the application for that process as per state law.
So you had a second, I'm sorry.
Yes, we did have a second. All right. Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Congratulations, Mr. Schiller. You're a member of the Colonial School Board of Education again.
And we will,
I was looking forward to grilling.
we will begin we'll do his oath of office at the
Next
November
meeting?
board meeting. And he will be officially on board. I'll have Mary Beth begin the re-onboarding process for Mr. Schiller.
Mr. Schiller, is there anything you would like to say?
Phil, you want to bring him into the room here and see if there's any comment from him, please?
I was gonna say, not everybody goes in.
Yeah. Let's see if they got it.
Oh my God, he's gotten gray.
You'll have to unmute yourself there,
Unmute
Rick.
yourself.
One of the grandkids to show you. There you go.
I probably shouldn't have unmuted myself because the first thing I heard about was I was getting gray. No, it's a pleasure to fill the vacancy and be a part of the board again. The Colonial School District's always been a big part of our family here, so it's always been one of the things that was something that I or Patsy or could do to be part or help the district out. It's always a pleasure to do that.
Well, we appreciate it, Rick. Thank
We
you.
appreciate you stepping up and volunteering to fill the vacancy position, and hopefully you will consider running for the position to fill out the rest of the term.
I can be bribed.
You're not supposed to say that, Rick.
Oh. So anyway, yeah.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, Rick.
Back. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rick.
All right.
All right. With that being said, there's no other items on the agenda. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Meeting to adjourn, make a
Mr.
motion.
President,
Hold on one second. Yes, sir.
can I bring up a public service announcement?
Oh,
Yes, sir. You most certainly can.
Thank you. I serve on the Selective Service Board for the County of Newcastle. The Selective Service is pretty much a very quiet organization that has to be kept in the event of a major emergency for the United States. We currently are in need of volunteers for the board. And
Or
over
to be a member
21,
of the board?
what's that?
To be a member of the board.
To be a member of the board. Yes, they'll be vetted through the administration up in Wisconsin, I believe it's our district. And then appointed, nominated by the governor after the vetting, then appointed by the president. So I would like to put it out there that I would like, hopefully, from the Colonial School District family, a couple of candidates to apply and join us. Sorry, we don't do too much. We do get training once a year, make sure we're up to speed, and God forbid we need to go to work again. But it still needs to be in place. So I thank you for letting me speak, and anybody can volunteer.
Thank you very much. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second? Second. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
So you're welcome to join next door.